Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutabata Kamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyahe Paritanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Nama Eva Kevalam Kolam Nasteva Katyaram Yatha Jaiti Namananda Rupam Murare Viramita Nija Dharma Dhyana Pujari Yatam Kartamapi Sakridatam Muktinam Paranam Yat Paramamritam Ekanam Jivanam Bhushanam Madhuram Marare Vyopi Mangalam Pavanam Pavane Vyopi Hare Nama Heva Kevalam Hare Nama Heva Kevalam. So reading from Jaiva Dharma, chapter 11, Nitya Dharma and idolatry. So saintly persons, Vaishnavas and Muslim scholars, they met and they were discussing about the Supreme Lord. The Muslims, so they were having the understanding that the absolute truth, Allah, has no form. And the Vaishnavas, they were asked that why come they are worshipping idols, because according to Quran that is forbidden. And so the Vaishnavas then are explaining to them about the deities. Mullah. So the Muslim scholar is speaking. I've considered your statement carefully in regards to deity worship. You say that Bhagavan refers to 6 astonishing attributes of the Supreme, and have concluded that the Quran Sharif describes the same 6 qualities in relationship to the word Allah. There's no point arguing over the meaning of the word Allah. Allah is Bhagavan. Guru Chanda. Very good. If that is so, you must accept the beauty and opulence of the Supreme Being. It is then admitted that he possesses a splendid form in the spiritual world, which is distinct from the world of mundane matter. This is our divine deity form. Mullah. In our Quran it is written that the Supreme Entity has a divine all-conscious form. So we are compelled to accept this fact. So that is interesting. So we can see in the Quran it is written that the Supreme Entity has a divine all-conscious form. However, an image of that spiritual form is material. That is what we call Bhut. The worship of Bhut is not the worship of the Supreme Being. Please tell me your viewpoint on this. Guru Chand, in the Vaishnava Shastras there is a provision for worshipping the divine spiritual deity form of Bhagavan. For the elevated class of devotees, no prescription has been given to worship material objects composed of earth, water, fire, or other elements. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasatma buddhi kunape tridatuke sadi kaladatri shubhauma ijjadhi yatirtha buddhi salile nakar hichit jane saviggeshu saeva go karaha. One who considers this corpse-like body comprised of the three elements, Vata, Pitta and Kapha, to be his real self, who regards his wife, children, and others as his own, his very own, who considers mundane forms made of earth, stone, or wood to be worshipable, and who regards mere water to be a place of pilgrimage, but who does not consider the Bhagavad Bhaktas to be more dear than his very self, to be his very own, to be worshipable, and to be places of pilgrimage. Such a person, though human, is no better than an ass among animals. It is said in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhutani yanti bhutejya. Those who worship matter go to the realms of matter. We see from this and many other conclusive statements that there is no basis in Shastra for the worship of that matter. There is an important point to consider in this. Human beings have different degrees of qualification according to their knowledge and sanskar. Only those who can understand pure spiritual existence are competent to worship the pure spiritual form of the deity. One's understanding is proportionate to one's development in this regard. Those whose spiritual qualification is extremely low cannot understand the pure spiritual state of existence. Even when such people meditate on the Lord within their minds, the form that they imagine is material. And meditating on a material form within the mind is the same as constructing a form of physical elements and regarding it as the Lord's form. That is why it is beneficial for a person on this level of eligibility to worship the deity. So that is an important point here, that those who are highly advanced, so they may be able to, by hearing about the Lord, by speaking about the Lord, by chanting mantras, like Gayatri mantras, by chanting the holy names, especially the Maha Mantra or other mantras, they may be able to perceive the transcendental form of the Lord, but that is only those who are highly advanced. So therefore it is recommended for those who are not advanced, and here this is mentioned, those whose spiritual qualification is extremely low, which is practically everyone in the age of Kali. So for them it is recommended to worship the deity form. So they cannot understand the pure spiritual state of existence. They cannot perceive the Lord. So of course here we have to understand that, see, this Guru Chand is a very exalted Babaji Vaishnav. And there's most of these Babajis there. Babaji means one who is highly absorbed in the worship of the Lord by, especially in the age of Kali, chanting the holy names. So, and they may not worship the deities because they are highly advanced. So, but those who are really truly Babajis are very rare. And if, for example, sannyasis, they may not need to worship the deities because of their being highly absorbed, being advanced. So therefore, so he's explaining that those who are not advanced, so for them it is highly recommended to worship the deity form. It is practically essential to worship the deity. It may be in the temple or at home. So at least taking darshan of the deities, seeing the deities in the temple. But then even preferably to do some seva for the Lord. Factually speaking, it would be most inauspicious for the general class of people if there were no worship of deities. When ordinary jivas become inclined toward the service of the Lord, they become despondent if they cannot see the deity form of the Lord before them. In religions where there is no worship of the deity, members who are on a low level of spiritual qualification are highly materialistic and obvious to Ishvara or in a state of distraction. Therefore, worship of the deity is the foundation of a religion for all humanity. So, in other words, here he's saying that some religions are there, and even these religions, there's no worship of the deity, so then those who are having, or those who are following a religion, but are actually they are materialistic, and it is external, and practically we can see that also all over the world. Even those who follow Krishna religion, the general mass of people who may say we are Christian, but they are actually materialistic, or even of the Muslim religion. And so, but even those who may also accept the so to say, as in India it is many times heard that we are Hindus, but then they may not actually be so much worshipping the Lord, or even they may be worshipping the Lord, but it is not on the proper guidance, and then it is also external and materialistic. So therefore proper deity worship is very important for humanity at large. And in the age of Kali, even more important than deity worship is chanting the holy names. It is the Yuga Dharma, chanting the names of the Lord. But usually deity worship is also highly recommended. In the previous age, Dwapar Yuga, so the religion for humanity was worship of the deities. That was there. And before that, it was performing great sacrifices. And if you perform a sacrifice, so then there is also worship of the Lord there. Any sacrifice which is done. In the beginning, there's puja, means worship of the Lord. That is actually the system, the paddhati. First one we worship the Lord, and then one we do the yajna, and the yajna is for Yajna Vishnu, is for Vishnu or the Lord, and the Ishtadev, the worship of the Lord. The form of Parameshwar is revealed to the Mahajans through their trance of unalloyed Jnana Yoga, and they meditate on that pure transcendental form in the hearts, which are purified by bhakti. When the bhakta's heart is revealed to the world after his continuous meditation, the image of the Lord's transcendental form is fashioned in this material world. So that is an important point. How the deities are fashioned. So the pure devotees are performing their devotional service, and then they can perceive the Lord. And then after, so they will instruct those who are making the deities how the deity should be seen. For example, also we can see in Braj, the original deities, they were made under the supervision of Krishna's great grandson Brajanab. When he came after Krishna disappeared from this world, he came with his family members, and then also so his grandfather or his grandmother was there. Of course, Abhimanyu was the grandfather, and the Arjun, or in that family, and Uttara was there. So she had also come, and other family members. And so Uttara, she had seen Krishna. So therefore Brajanab, so he asked Uttara to help those making the deities. So, and according to her description, that the different deities were made. Of course, all very similar, because it's same Krishna, like Govinda Dev, Gopinath, Madan Mohan, Haridev. So, and because of course she was also a pure devotee of Krishna. So she had seen Krishna. And then, but then, of course, later on, so different other, as mentioned here, personalities, great personalities, they were asking persons to make deities. And then it is handed down in family tradition, like in Jaipur, the place where they make the deities. And so there's one where our deities were made, Pande Murti Wala. So that is, the knowledge is then handed down. The father is doing, then the son is doing, and then his son is doing. So that knowledge is handed down, how to make the deities, according to the instructions then of the great personalities. So therefore it is not an imaginary form. Although made with material from this world, like marble or stone or wood, but then fashioned according to instructions of the great souls. And then there's a ceremony also known as Pran Pratishta. So infusing life or establishing the life force in the deity form. Pran Pratishta. So that the pure devotee will do, or the advanced devotee will do. And that form is worshipable. And then actually Krishna becomes manifest. Archa avatar. The Lord is descending, avatar in this world. So from the transcendental world, the personality of Godhead is descending in this world, therefore known as avatar. Or Swayam Bhagavan, Krishna himself is appearing in this world in his transcendental form. And he is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and others are his expansions. And when they come, they are known as avatar, Vishnu avatar, Ram avatar, Nrsimha avatar. They come to this world in their transcendental form. So their form is spiritual, but they become manifest to the eyes of even the common man. But then only those who are spiritually elevated, they can understand the spiritual form of the Lord, and they can see. Others may see, but they may not understand. But those who are highly advanced, they will understand. But then, with the guidance of the great souls, the spiritual master, then even an ordinary person can understand that the deity is no different from the Lord. So therefore, association of the great souls is important, and that they will guide the common man, the common practicer, those who are practicing devotional service. So deity worship is very much required, and that has been explained. Sadhu Sangha is very much required, because without Sadhu Sangha, the association of the highly advanced spirit souls, devotees, then one cannot properly worship the deities. One cannot properly chant the holy names. So that is required. And then sufficient hearing must be there from the lotus mouth of the great souls. And then one can understand the subject matter, then one can advance. And one can advance. The deity form is always Chinmay, spiritual and conscious, for those who are on the highest platform of eligibility. Those on the intermediate level see the deity as endowed in perception and awareness, Manomai. So the Lord is always spiritual. And similarly, the deity form is Chinmay, spiritual and conscious. So that is the case when the Lord is, especially when the Lord is installed. So therefore usually the deity form of the Lord is installed. Otherwise the deity is not completely Chinmay. It is not completely spiritual and conscious. If the deity is not installed, so you may say this the images of the Lord, and it can help us to remember the Lord, but the Lord is not fully manifest. Only when the ceremony is performed, pran pratishta, then the deity becomes Chinmay. Otherwise it is a deity. But it is not Chinmay. It is the image of the Lord. But when the deity is installed, then Krishna becomes manifest there, fully. Especially when the pure devotee is installing, then the Lord will be there fully manifest. And then, therefore, then the service of the Lord has to be done properly. Under the guidance again of the spiritual master. So this is those who are highly advanced. So those one are, so there's the Uttam Vaishnav, and then there is the Madhyam Vaishnav. Those on the intermediate level see the deity as endowed with perception and awareness. Manomai. Manomai means man, means the mind. So even there's another consideration there. So Anamai, Pranamai, and then sometimes it is explained Jnanamoy or Manamai, and then Vijnanmoy, and then Anandamoy. So these are the 5 conceptions which are there also. So those, for example, the animals, they are on the platform of Anamoy. Or even those persons in a human form of life who are not spiritually inclined. They are just thinking about eating and sleeping and enjoying. So this is Anamoy, like the animals. Therefore, those who are not practicing spiritual life, they are sometimes called as, what is it? Dripad Pashu, 2-legged animals. Pashuhi Saman. They are just like animals if they are not engaged in spiritual activities. But Prabhupada used to say polished animals, because the house is nice and they have a nice dress or they have a car, but no spiritual culture is there. So therefore Prabhupada used to call them polished animals. This means that, so the intermediate devotee, so he may be Manomai, so he has a understanding of the Lord, and then to some extent, so he may remember the Lord, but the Lord is not yet completely spiritual because he's not yet on that high level. So some perception is there in the consciousness, in the mind, but the Lord is not fully manifest because of lack of purity. So that is Manomai. This means that the intermediate devotee has faith that it is his conscious and his thoughts and prayers, and accepts his mood of worship. So he has faith that it is his conscious of his thoughts and prayers, and accept his mood of worship. However, the intermediate devotee, unlike the advanced devotee, does not directly perceive the deity as a spiritual, all-conscious form of Bhagavan. So he has the knowledge and understanding, but the realization is not there. So the immediate devotee sees, yes, Krishna is God. And so he may see the deity form and understand that Krishna, the deity form, is not different from Krishna, and his consciousness sometimes, to some extent, he can remember. But Krishna is not fully manifest there. And in these 5 levels, so Jnanamoy, then Vijnayamoy, so when one is more realized. And then Anandamoy, when one is on the highest platform, then one will feel transcendental bliss. Those on the lowest level initially see the deity as material, Jaramoy. But in time the deity reveals his pure spiritual form to the intelligence purified by spiritual love. Consequently, the deity form of Bhagavan is suitable to be worshipped and served by all classes of devotees. It is unnecessary to worship an imaginary form, but it is highly beneficial to worship Bhagavan's eternal deity form. The Vaishnava Sampradayas give the provision for people on these 3 levels of eligibility to worship the deity. So that means the neophyte devotee, the intermediate devotee, and even the advanced devotee, they may worship the deity form of the Lord. There's no fault in this, for it is the only arrangement by which the jivas can gradually attain auspiciousness. So when the deity is there, then there's an exchange there with the deity. And then one may be able to advance in spiritual life. And spiritual life means to understand our relationship with Krishna, our spiritual relationship of us as spiritual being and with the Supreme Being, Krishna. So for this, deity worship is very much required and recommended for the practicing devotee to worship the deities in some form, to some extent. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto. Yata yatatma parimrijjate sau mat punyagata savanabhidhanai tatha tata pashyati vastu sukshmam chakshur yata evanjana samparyuktam. O Uddhav, as the eyes are treated with therapeutic ointment, can see very minute objects. Similarly, when the heart is cleansed of material contamination by hearing and reciting the narrations of my supremely pure activities, you can see my subtle transcendental form, which is beyond the purview of matter. Jivatma is covered by the material mind, and in this state he cannot know himself or render service to Paramatma. However, by performing sadhana bhakti, which consists of hearing, chanting and other devotional practices, the Atma gradually develops spiritual power. As that power increases, material bondage slackens, and the more material bondage is relaxed, the more the soul's own natural function comes into ascendancy. Thus one gradually attains direct perception of the self and Ishvara and engages directly in spiritual activities. Some people think one should endeavor to realize the absolute truth by rejecting all that is not truth. This is known as the cultivation of dry knowledge. What power does a conditioned soul have to renounce objects that are not inherently real? Can a prisoner who is confined to a cell liberate himself simply by desiring to do so? His objective should be to eradicate the offense that has placed him in bondage. The Jivatma's principal defect is that he has forgotten that he is an eternal servant of Bhagavan, and that is why he is bound by Maya and forced to suffer material happiness, distress, and repeated birth and death in this world. Although a person may initially be busy in sense gratification, if for some reason or another his mind becomes a little inclined towards Ishwar, and he regularly takes darshan of the deity, and hears Lila Katha, his original nature being the eternal servant of Krishna will be strengthened. The more strength this inherent nature develops, the more competent he becomes to perceive spirit directly. The only hope of spiritual progress for those who are the least spiritually qualified is to serve the deity and to hear and chant about the Lord. That is why the Mahajans have established service to the deity. So that is the answer of this Goruchand Babaji to the Muslim scholar. It is quite lengthy, but it is very precise and very convincing. Any question? Yes?
Babaji are more spiritually advanced than those who worship deity and chanting holy names.
So Babaji are more advanced than those who are worshipping the deity or chanting the holy names.
Is that?
So those who are really Babaji, these are known to be on the Paramahamsa stage. These are most advanced. But the thing is that the pure devotees are very rare. So the pure Babajis are also rare. So it doesn't mean if one is adopting the dress of a Babaji that immediately becomes highly advanced. And then we can see. But so the Babaji Vesh, so that is a help. So that one may become advanced, but it's not necessarily that one immediately becomes highly advanced by taking the dress of a Babaji. Yes, it is external, but usually also there's a process of accepting Babaji Vesh. So first one should be also a student. And then one may have the dress just like the Babaji, but one is not yet really a Babaji, but one is just beginning. So, and the process of becoming absorbed in bhajan, in the worship of the Lord. So Babaji means those who are doing bhajan, worship of the Lord, and they are not so much, they are not endeavoring to give this knowledge to others, like the Gushtianandi, and distributing books and going to people and telling them about Krishna. So the Babajis are usually living in a holy place, and they're usually away from the crowds, and they live in a sattvic place, environment, peaceful environment, so they can peacefully chant the holy names, and they may also study the scriptures, or they may hear from those who are more advanced, and sometimes they may also do some deity worship also. So as explained, even those who are advanced, they may worship. And because, so again, the same thing, the Babaji may not immediately be advanced. Or usually to be a proper Babaji, someone has to be under the shelter of a Babaji who is advanced. And then is following the process, having the dress of a Babaji, and then chanting the holy names, hearing from the Babaji who is advanced, as is explained here. And then one may be able to be awarded Babaji Vesh. So that is there. And so truly Babaji means one who is highly advanced. But then you may see sometimes that some may have the dress of a Babaji, but he may not really be a Babaji. But he's trying to become a Babaji. So Babaji actually means one who is highly advanced in devotional service, in chanting the holy names. So but not all of those who have the dress of a Babaji, yeah.
What is the thinking after ending this?
What is the thinking?
इस्कॉन में पहले थे, बाद में इस्कॉन छोड़कर वो बाबा जी के उसमें चले गए।
Okay.
तो उनके प्रति क्या हमारा भाव होना चाहिए?
अच्छा।
बहुत अच्छे ब्रह्मचारी थे, मगर
हाँ,
बाद
हाँ,
में
Babaji ban gaya.
हाँ, तो
So the question is, so if one is we have seen some devotees in our society, they were good brahmacharis, but then they left the temple, they went to some place and becoming Varsana or maybe Radha Kund and becoming Babaji. So how we should see them? Yes, of course. So we have to try to be broad-minded. At least I believe we should be broad-minded and go beyond the external, and we take care of ourselves, and of course we should be under proper guidance. And usually, so as explained, so Babaji is not just changing the dress, but one should be under proper guidance. And for example, so Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, he gave Babaji Vesh to some of his disciples, I believe 13 disciples. So he gave Babaji Vesh. And they were simply chanting the holy names. They were staying in the temple and seeing the deities also, hearing Krishna Katha, speaking Krishna Katha. But then they were going on Harinam Sankirtan. But they were not giving classes to the public that the sannyasis were doing. So they were just concerned with their bhajan because it was their nature. But they discussed Krishna Katha. So, but then they were advanced actually. One time one of these Babaji was saying to his daughter, to his friends, Babajis and those maybe aspiring, even the brahmacharis, we go for Harinam Sankirtan. Okay, let's go. They went out of the mat, they started chanting. Of course, first always doing Mangalacharan, chanting some verses in glorification. Guruve Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. And maybe some glorification of Krishna Nam. Madhuram Madhurebhyo Pi Mangalebhyo Pi Mangalam Pavanam Pavanebhyo Pi Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Jaiti Jaiti Namananda Rupam Murare Veramita Nijadara Madhyana Pujariyatam Katamapi Sakridatam Muktinam Paramamritam Ekanam Jivanam Bhushanam Me. So they are chanting these mantras and then they started chanting the Mahamantra. So, and they were chanting in front of the mat and they became so absorbed in chanting the holy names. They were just outside the mat. They were not going for Harinam Sankirtan, they forgot. They were just chanting the holy name and absorbed. Maybe tears coming from their eyes. And after 1 hour, one of the brahmacharis, Babaji, we're supposed to go on Harinam Sankirtan. We're supposed to go around and chant the holy names. Well, we're chanting the holy names. Babaji said, yes, but we are still in front of the mat. He said, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. And then, but that was over. It was more than 1 hour they were chanting. Okay, we go back inside. So fully absorbed in chanting the holy names. So great soul. So there was a friend of our Prabhupada, Akinchan Das Krishna Babaji Maharaj. So when Prabhupada took sannyas, in Keshavji Gaudiya Math in Mathura, from his spiritual master, or from his god brother Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, was his god brother, so he took sannyas from him. Srimad Bhaktivedanta Naya Maharaj, so he was doing the yajna for Prabhupada. and he made a danda for Prabhupada and gave the cloth to Prabhupada. So at that time, Akinchandas Babaji Maharaj was there, and Prabhupada asked him, Babaji Maharaj, please chant the holy name. So he was chanting during the ceremony. And then Bhakti Pragyan Krishna Maharaj, he was giving the class, and after he had given the danda and the name, Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, and then the danda, the cloth, and then he asked Prabhupada to speak also, and he told Prabhupada, okay, you speak now something. And Prabhupada said, yes, my Guru Maharaj, although hardly anyone could understand English. Bhakti Pragyan Krishna Maharaj, Narayan Maharaj, and this Babaji Maharaj, he was speaking English. Also he could understand. He was actually a professor from Calcutta, but then he saw an article in Gaudiya Patrika by Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. Anyone interested to join the temple and chant the holy names only and take prasad and can stay free of charge. You please come. He came. So and then when he came actually then, he was already a little older. He was a professor, but he left everything. Then the other Brahmaji said, okay, we should clean the pots in the kitchen. No, I will only chant Harinam. No, you're a new bhakta. I said, no. He showed them the article. See the article in Samachar Patra, Gaudiya Patrika? So only you come here, you stay, you get prasad, and you chant the holy names. What they could say. They went to Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. Gurudev, there's a new bhakta is there. And he's only chanting Harinam, he doesn't want to do seva. Then Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta said, okay, bring him here. Then he came and then he offered pranam. The new bhakta, who was already a little older, but he was, educated person. He knew English also. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said, Acha, so you don't want to clean the pots? I said, yeah, no problem. But the thing is, I saw your article in the Gaudiya Patrika that anyone who simply wants to chant the holy names can come and stay and have prasad. So therefore, I felt I should just chant the holy names, and I like to chant the holy names. And Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada said, okay, you can simply chant the holy names, no need to do anything. And he told the other brahmacharis, he's okay. He doesn't have to wash the pots, let him just chant the holy names. Because he could understand, he's educated and he's qualified to simply chant the holy names. And so this Akinchandas Babaji Maharaj, when Prabhupada took sannyas, he was chanting the Maha Mantra very sweetly, very purely. So, there were some cassettes also. I had one cassette. Even it is, I saw in internet, online also, yeah. Very nice. You have it? You send it to me. I have it maybe somewhere, but it's nice to have it again. I put in my computer. And that is chanting so very nicely. So that is a real Babaji. One time he was chanting, so again, before chanting the Maha Mantra, so in bhajan, they were doing bhajan, so glorification of Krishna Nam. And then sometimes he's chanting anyhow, so it's okay, yeah. Chanting Hare Krishna, then in the between chanting Radhe Krishna, which is not different, but still. So anyway, broad-minded, and that is actually Vaishnava. So anyhow, then Prabhupada took sannyas. So that is a real Babaji, highly advanced. And he was staying in Pavan Sarovar near Nandagaon. So his samadhi is there. Some Prabhupada disciple, because he had come to our Krishna Balaram temple also a few times. And being with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada asked him to sit on of course, because he was elder than Prabhupada and senior. and they were together talking in Bengali, because he's Bengali, Kinchan Das Babaji Maharaj and Prabhupada also Bengali. And they were talking together and laughing together like anything. So loving relationship. So that is highly advanced Babaji. So one time some disciples saw him. There they went to see him in Pavan Sarovar. One devotee, Prabhupada disciple, sannyasi, Bibi Govinda Maharaj, went there, and so he learned a little Hindi, some few words, and so he had told me one time. He just recently was here in our house. So then he offered obeisances to Babaji and wanted to ask him some question. He tried to speak in Hindi, but he was not able to speak properly. And the Babaji Maharaj was saying, you don't have to try to speak in Hindi. I speak very well English. Oh, okay, Maharaj. And then he asked him a question. He said, okay, your question, but you just chant Hare Krishna, and then you will get the answer. So he was just encouraging everyone to chant Hare Krishna. So this is Babaji Maharaj, highly advanced. So Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada had 13 disciples who became Babaji, and they were highly advanced. So, yeah. Two devotees asked Prabhupada for Babaji, but Prabhupada was hesitant. But one was pressing, and he was saying, you know, and he had one devotee had some disease, and he was thinking he will die soon. And then he asked Prabhupada, please give me Babaji because I'm not living long. And then Prabhupada said, okay. And then so he became Babaji, and somehow, so he was chanting and his health became, and then somehow his health was okay. And then he gave up his Babaji base. So this is not real Babaji. So it is not easy to be Babaji. ठीक है और क्या क्या हो गया
Nothing, someone
कमेंट कर दिया ऐसे.
अच्छा
So what is the difference, like Babaji and the sannyasi? Is there
Yes.
any
difference.
sadhana difference or consciousness difference? Like
So
they
what
are
is
more
difference
also-
between Babaji and sannyasi? So anyhow, so to conclude, the Babajis are highly advanced personalities. But again, so we respect all Babajis, those who are highly advanced, but not all those who are dressed like Babajis are highly advanced. Similarly, so we may have sannyasis. The point is about sannyas, so it is the difference. Ultimately, so there's no difference between a highly advanced Babaji and a highly advanced sannyasi. Highly advanced because they have love for Krishna. They're absorbed in chanting holy names. But the Babaji is more internal and he doesn't like to go out because it is not his nature. Whereas the sannyasi, he's going out and sannyasi is there also for bhajan, but then is there, his duty is to give this knowledge to others. That is the difference. Goshtyanandi and Bhajananandi. But the real Bhajananandi is a pure devotee, and then by his example, he's also preaching. And his chanting will purify the three worlds. And so, and the sannyasi, real sannyasi Goshtyanandi is preaching, but he's doing bhajan also. If he's not doing proper bhajan, he will not be able to preach nicely, he will not be able to be really a sannyasi, and he may fall down. So Babaji is also purifying others by his power of the chanting of the holy names, by his devotion. And so this way he's also preaching by his example. And sannyasi is preaching more widely, and he's reaching out, but at the same time he's doing bhajan. He's absorbed. In the morning he will chant the holy names. So that is there. So basically there is ultimately, internally there is no difference. Externally one is doing his bhajan and one is preaching. but they are both on the high level. That is the true Brahma, the true Vaishnava. Whereas one is not so advanced, and he may be Babaji, but is not so advanced. One may be sannyasi, but is not so advanced. That's all. That is the difference. So, but mostly in our society, so we are trying to preach, but we should do our bhajan properly also. That is important. So, and yes, but to be Babaji is not easy, and so also to be really sannyasi is not easy. So that we have to understand. So we perform our devotional service and we try to advance as much as possible. Okay, is that clear? Is that clear? Okay. So Babaji is not for you, okay? You better you be grihasta. And you chant the holy names, and you worship the deities, and you do bhakti at home, okay? With wife. Wife to be. We should do some ceremony.